we go on to my Green Bay Packers, who, as aforementioned, missed out in the playoffs last year. We went 8-9. Departure-wise, obviously lost Aaron Rodgers and Lazard and Randall Cobb. They all went over to New York, along with Adrian Amos. Also lost tight ends Robert Tonyan and Mercedes Lewis. And then a couple of defensive linemen in Jaron Reed and Dean Lowry. Also lost kicker Mason Crosby. Mainly note that because always tough when you lose a veteran kicker. So, you never know if the next guy will fill in greatly or you're going to go through this dastardly cycle of trying to find a guy that can be consistent. You know that better than anybody as a Cowboys fan. And then addition-wise, really only one notable one, which is safety Jonathan Owens, kind of, I guess, filling in for the loss of Adrian Amos. And then draft-wise, my Packers went out and grabbed edge rusher Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa in round 1, and then picked in round 2, grabbed tight end Luke Musgrave out of Oregon State, and then wide receiver Jaden Reed out of Michigan State. And then in the 3rd round, grabbed tight end Tucker Kraft as well. So typical Packers fashion, go defense first round. But unlike previous years, grabbed a few weapons. We joked after the draft that Rodgers must be a little bit upset that they went skill position heavy. But nonetheless, what are your thoughts on my Packers and their offseason?
I think, I've been saying this for a while, that it was time for Green Bay to begin the rebuild, and I think that they've finally done it. They've gotten rid of Aaron Rodgers, and it's nothing about his skill or talent or anything like that. They just didn't have the roster that was ready to win a Super Bowl, and that was kind of what Aaron Rodgers is looking for at this point in his career, or at least compete for one, and they had clearly taken a step back in regards to that. So I'm fine with all the departures. I know it's a lot, and I know there wasn't a lot of additions outside of the draft. But like I said, that's kind of what you want to do in a rebuild. That said, I don't think the Packers are in like really bad, like worst team in the league territory by any means. I mean, they still have a lot of talent that has proven themselves. I'm talking about, Kenny Clark, Aaron Jones, A.J. Dillon, Jair Alexander, Rashawn Gary, Devondre Campbell. Like, there's a lot of players on this team still that have proven to be really solid. But I think this is a really exciting year where you can, although it's not going to be great for wins, you're going to see a lot of the young talent get a shot around the rest of the veteran talent and just see how they can perform and see, how it works out. And so I think it'll be a nice, smooth transition. Like I said, I don't expect this to be a year where the Packers are competing for the playoffs. But I think they could, try and maybe compete for, somewhere around 500 or a little below. And just see what happens. So, yeah, when you talk about like the context of all that, it's hard to grade their offseason because in general, like you look at the offseason and you're like, yeah, they got worse. But that was by design. It had to happen. The championship window was closed. So you start to turn towards the youth.
On the head there in regards to the youth, because it is a transition year. Like I said, not only Rodgers is gone, but Mason Crosby is gone. So I mentioned you never know what you're going to get in regards to replacing a solid kicker. But the main one obviously being Jordan Love, been okay in the preseason. Obviously, got to see what he can do in the regular season, but it is encouraging, and obviously we'll see what he's made of this year. As this is potentially a big year for him and for the Packers to see if they can, regardless if we make the playoffs or not, if there's enough encouraging moments and such, maybe the Packers feel better and give him an extension or sorts, or continue to build with him, or if it doesn't work out, then you can always start looking for your next quarterback or start building your team for your next quarterback. And maybe Love is a placeholder. But we'll see what happens there. And then defensively, too, I want to mention a couple of young guys. Quay Walker had a solid year last year on the field. Obviously, he needs to not get so many personal fouls. He had a couple of those. Unfortunately, one against the Lions. That was not looking very good. And then also Devontae Wyatt didn't really get to play much last year, but our other first round pick, defensive lineman. So hopefully he pops along this year along with Lucas Van Ness. So once again, kind of trying to revamp that defense. And that is my last point in regards to this year's. Got to see Joe Barry and that defense kind of take that next step that they should have taken last year, that we all expected them to take last year. but they didn't, as we remember. Very disappointing. I mean, off the rip, week 1 got destroyed by the Vikings. So big year for Joe Barry, as he may be coaching for his position as well. So we'll see how the defense grades out. But that is my Packers. And like I said, I expect them to be, like you said, around the 500 area. Maybe sneak in the wild card if things fall the right way. Season goes great, but wouldn't be shocked if they're picking in the top 10, top 15 come April of next year.